Okay, time for fans forum. Fire away. Who's in line?
Okay, so here we go. And this is from Brett Shepard. He says the Bills were pretenders.
Bills ran out of gas, and I just think they were worn out. Are they pretenders? No. I just think for a wide variety of reasons, it just emotionally we're not the same team. And I don't know if the loss of Von Miller changed their defense. They were not as vibrant the back end of the schedule as they were the first half before he got hurt. And I just think the emotional wear and tear of the Hamlin near tragedy and the snowstorms and the travel and the suspended game. And maybe they have to learn to cope with pressure. That's the other factor in the equation because now 2 years in a row, they've failed to get to the divisional finals. They've got an awful lot of talent on that team, but it hasn't been very consistent. And then you add into the equation, Josh Allen's turnover factor this year was much higher, much greater than it had been in the past. Your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, I think you got to look at Josh Allen because athletically, the guy is fantastic. But you just wonder if he has the leadership skills. Is he at the same level as a Joe Burrow? I don't think he is. And is that something that he can develop so he can lead his team? Because remember in the game, it wasn't it Diggs was kind of really frustrated with Josh Allen.
They had a meltdown on the sidelines, and Diggs had a meltdown in the locker room. I mean, Diggs is a vibrant player, and Sean McDermott refused to criticize Diggs, but Diggs just goes off. It's like Terrell Owens, and now suddenly it creates a distraction.
Oh, yeah.
Just do your bloody job and hope he'll get the ball to you, et cetera. And it didn't. It has not happened in some of these crunch time games. So I don't know if the Buffalo's a pretender. I just think that Buffalo's got some internal issues here. I don't know whether it's psychological or whether it's a manpower thing, but huge disappointment on the Niagara Frontier tonight. I'll guarantee you that. Next question.
Okay, so this one here is from Mark Lindsay. He says Kansas City owns the AFC West, but it's a weak division.
Well, it's a division that's got quarterbacks. I mean, you obviously you got Mahomes and you got Russell Wilson, who might get rejuvenated, find the fountain of youth if Sean Payton becomes his head coach. And Justin Herbert is an absolute unequivocal winner. I don't know what the Raiders are going to do at quarterback once the Derek Carr trade goes away, but there's no doubt Kansas City is far and above, better, more creative, and deeper than anybody in the division. And they're not going away. And I do think the Chargers are close to being a pretty good playoff team. They're not there yet. Have to learn how to win, and I think that's a piece of the conversation in any of these clubs. Whether it's Jacksonville or wherever, you got to learn how to cope with the second season where the pressure is ramped up. And like I say, Chargers only won one game against a team with a winning record. You got to learn how to win in the second season, and obviously they've not. So, but Kansas City owns the division right now, and if you go pull up on Google the Kansas City roster and look at the guys that Brett Veach, that general manager, has brought in for Andy Reid to implement, it's absolutely amazing. And John and I, we argued back and forth in September. What's life after Tyreek Hill going to be like for Kansas City? Mm-hmm. Well, we found out because Kansas City is still going to play in the AFC Championship game because that GM got Andy Reid more tremendous athletes to plug into his system.
Yeah, we thought that the AFC West was going to be one of the top divisions in the entire NFL. And then Denver ended up being a train wreck. The Raiders were awful. The Chargers were disappointing. So, yeah, it did turn out to be kind of a weak division. But, we'll see what happens next year.
Okay, final question here in our fans forum segment.
Okay, let's see what we got here. And let's go look at some of these YouTube comments. And got to change this around. And this is in response to the
Washington Commanders mess.
Yes, because you had the Spanos scorecard over his entire history. Now look at Snyder here. How about Dan Snyder's report card? 23 years ownership, 166, 226 and 2 records, 6 winning seasons, 9 head coaches, 4 NFC East titles, 0 Super Bowls, playoff record 2-6, 1 rebrand, and numerous scandals and millions of alienated fans. I mean, what a mess.
Well, I keep waiting for the franchise to be sold, and it has not happened yet. The story broke last week that Jeff Bezos, the billionaire, did not make an offer for the team. They're having enormous problems with their stadium. They can't get funding from any of the 3 states. Maryland, Virginia, and the District of Columbia will not give funding to the Washington franchise as long as Daniel Snyder owns it. So they've got to sell it. It is a mess. They've gone through a lot of head coaches. They've made a lot of mistakes. They have a quarterback nightmare that is probably as bad as anybody around the National Football League. And nobody's talking about the mess, but you just think back to the quarterbacks that they've run through there, starting with Robert Griffin III, who Daniel Snyder demanded they draft, and he got hurt and he busted out and failed. And so you go from all those quarterbacks, the tragedy that is Dwayne Haskins, to the mess they had with Carson Wentz, and et cetera. So Washington's future is ahead of it, hopefully, with the new owner. I feel bad for Ron Rivera because I think he's coaching in just a horrible situation.
Yeah, it is tough for him. I mean, Rivera's a good guy. He was here in San Diego for some time. But not the Redskins, the Commanders, but when they were the Redskins, they had such a great history and so many great players. In the 80s, they won 3 Super Bowls. And just to see this franchise take a turn for the worse is kind of sad for the NFL.
Well, if you look at the coaches, while you're out Googling, look at the history of coaches that Daniel Snyder has hired. And whether that's Marty Schottenheimer, who he ran out of there after 1 year, or Steve Spurrier, who failed miserably, and the whole entourage of guys, his ability to pick people has not been very good either. So real tough situation.